And a very pleasant good afternoon to everyone. I am Biff Kensington. I'm joined today by my co-host Ryan Sayo, and you are listening to the Queen City Express. It is, holy crap, I don't even know what day it is. It is Thursday, April 26, 2018, coming at you about 15 minutes early today, but that's okay. Ryan, it's been a hell of a week, buddy. How you doing?
Apparently better than you. You getting up there in age, your mind's slipping out on you.
I'm, yeah, let's just say it's not been the best of weeks so far. I am a year older as of Monday, and I am feeling that age. So I'm going to do the best I can here today. Got a very short show. We're not going to be on the air with you here today. It's going to be like a hit and run show type of deal. But we are going to cover tomorrow's big event from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. It is time for the greatest Royal Rumble. Um, Stumbling into this WWE, it seems like. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding this show. We're going to cover the card, go through our match predictions here. We're going to talk a little bit about the controversy. Of course, today is a pretty big day for football fans. The NFL draft opens tonight. Going to be very interesting to see what happens. Of course, Ryan and myself are both NFL fans. Ryan, you feel free to disclose your personal preference in NFL teams at your leisure. I would rather not be embarrassed in some of the circles I visit.
Well, I mean, how embarrassed can you be if you're not a Browns fan? I mean, there's always worse out there.
You know, there's a theory. One of the possible number one draft picks actually had offensive tweets that came up through his social media accounts, and some people were joking this was a last ditch effort for him to avoid Cleveland.
I wouldn't blame him.
So, not going to touch that one any further. We'll talk about the NFL draft at the end of the show here today. But again, we want to focus mostly on the greatest Royal Rumble. It's definitely the talk of the wrestling world right now for both good and bad reasons. A lot of news has been breaking with the WWE in particular. It's kind of a WWE's world right now. We're just all living in it. They are expanding, and they are expanding quickly, making quite a lot of money. Want to welcome everybody that's going to be joining in the live stream. I see our friend Shooting Debris, Taker's Minion, is watching with us. Taker, good to see you, buddy. Going to be covering some of the events that are happening tomorrow, but first I'm going to go ahead and knock out some plugs. If you have a podcast and you want to plug, all you got to do, contact the show, biffkensington2018 at gmail.com. Give me a shout. I'll hook you up. Got a bunch of them here. The Cage Side Seats family of podcasts, Not Your Demographic, The Better Boys Club, Bros Before Elbows, and Keeping Up with Kayfabe. Make sure to check out Cage Side Seats for information there. Of course, the greatest podcast in the world, as far as my money is concerned, the Shooting Debris Show with Taker's Minion and Doc Sinju. That happens Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Eastern on the weekends of Big Four pay-per-views. Be sure to check them out. Of course, we have the Ruthless Aggression podcast with Mental Matt. That drops Friday evenings. We've also got Two Guys, One Sport with Chris and George, Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling. Mox and Ambrose Alley have the Violent Wrestling podcast on the way back soon. One of my personal favorites, Jason Solomon, a.k.a. the Solid Monster. He hosts the Solid Monster Sounds Off. That drops Sunday afternoons. Wednesday Night Shooting with Tanya Rogers and Andrew Swift. Miss Monroe and Company with two different podcasts, both Ringside Geeks and For the Love of Wrestling. Let me see if I got everybody here. Of course, we also have our little family of podcasts. Taker's Minion and I co-host the Connoisseurs of Wrestling podcast that drops early on in the week. Here, of course, the Queen City Express every Thursday around 4 p.m. Eastern. And the last call, midnight Saturday night. This week, very big week. The final drawing, as it were, for the ultimate trivia contest that we've been running. Of course, go onto the channel, look up the archives of the last call episodes, have all the information about the trivia contest. We will be doing the live drawing midnight this coming Saturday. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and touch on the greatest Royal Rumble. We have 10 matches. 7 championship matches are going to be held in Jeddah tomorrow night. Now, the show itself starts at noon. Eastern here in the States. It's going to be 7 p.m. Local time in Jeddah. The pre-show will begin on the WWE Network at 11 a.m. There's some confusion, Ryan, over the length of the show. Excuse me. There's apparently going to be some type of intermission. The prayer hour or a prayer hour in Jeddah will be taking place during the show. It's, I'm guessing, part of the Muslim faith. Some sort of intermission. So there's no real word yet on how long the show is going to last. The Rumble itself should be about 90 minutes. Apparently, they're blocking 5 to 6 hours for this show. We're talking WrestleMania length here and WrestleMania style production from the look of the stage. I got to ask you a question to start off here. As someone who attended WrestleMania, do you think that this show is cheapening WrestleMania in any way, that being the Greatest Royal Rumble?
I think a little bit, having it, especially this close to it. And the last rumor I saw was that it might be pushing 7.5 hours long for this show, which is just ridiculous. But yeah, this big of a card, this close to the show, and it almost kind of feels like they might have been saving some of their big moments for the show. But we'll get to that as we go card by card match thing. Yeah.
Well, excuse me, I picked the wrong time to start coughing again. It's an interesting show. It's a controversial show. There's a lot of people that have talked of boycotting the show. There's other people that have taken online to complain about the show. There are many that are excited for it. It's one of the most controversial shows I've seen in a long time. And it kind of matches the polarizing reactions that some of WWE's top stars get. So I guess it's only fitting now that the events themselves are polarizing. But it will be a 10-match show, however long it does last. And it, of course, is headlined by the 50-man Royal Rumble match, the greatest Royal Rumble match. 50 participants, should be about an hour and a half at least, just to get everyone into the ring. As of last check, half the field for the Rumble has been set. We have 25 of the 50 entrants. Also, one of the entrants will be competing from a local tryout in Saudi Arabia. That kind of ties in with some news we'll talk about next week here on the show regarding Triple H and his plans to expand NXT's reach internationally. That's actually an interesting topic that we'll get to in next week's show. But anyway, a Saudi Arabia contestant from Saudi Arabia will be in the Rumble, so that'll be 26 spots. I'm guessing 24 of the roster spots here will probably be made up of special guests, returning legends, things of that nature. There's all sorts of rumors running rampant. There are some legends that have been appointed to this match that we already know about. And let's go ahead and run down the names that we do have confirmed. Of course, it was confirmed Rey Mysterio will be in the Greatest Royal Rumble along with the Great Khali, Mark Henry, Randy Orton, and Shane McMahon. Bobby Roode, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn of Raw will also be joining Baron Corbin, Chad Gable, Dolph Ziggler, Mojo Rawley, Goldust, Elias, Titus O'Neil, Apollo Crews, Kurt Angle, and Braun Strowman. SmackDown will be sending Daniel Bryan, Big E, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods of the New Day, plus Shelton Benjamin, Sin Cara, and the Ayatollah of Rock and Rolla will be in Saudi Arabia. I doubt he'll use that nickname. Chris Jericho will be in the Greatest Royal Rumble. I would assume that some of the other call-ups, like a Drew McIntyre, will probably show up in this match as well. I believe Mike Kanellis is supposed to be in the Rumble match. But that's who we know so far. We'll be looking to get about a full rundown here, especially as we get closer to the match itself. Ryan, I'm kind of at a loss for words as to why they're doing this match. I don't like the idea of doing more than 1 or 2 Rumbles a year. I think it kind of cheapens the Royal Rumble pay-per-view in January. What are your thoughts?
Well, there's only one reason why they're doing it, and that's all about the money. They're getting paid a lot to do it, so they're doing it. I'm not a big fan of them doing it myself. I think it does, like you said, cheapen the Royal Rumble itself. I would prefer there just being 1 a year. I like watching the Royal Rumble, but I don't like the way they're going about this.
Well, apparently they're getting somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 to $200 million to run this series over the next 10 years.
See, I mean, for that, I'd probably do it too.
Yeah, I would definitely see the value in doing that. It's a lot of money to pass up, obviously. But we'll get into some of the controversial aspects of this show coming up here. As far as the Rumble itself goes, maybe this was part of the request from the Saudi government. The Saudi government has had a major hand in organizing this event, which is one of the interesting parts about it. This is kind of unique for WWE shows, at least on this scale. A lot of money involved, a lot of politics involved here as well, and a lot of controversy regarding the participation of the women's division or lack thereof here in Jeddah tomorrow. As far as using, another Rumble match, again, you can only say it so many times. I just feel like it cheapens the gimmick in January. It's really interesting, the winner of this match apparently is getting a trophy, and that's it. That's all that's been announced thus far. So whoever wins the 50-person Rumble here in April gets a trophy, but the winner of the 30-man Rumble or 30-woman Rumble in January, they go to WrestleMania for a big title shot. So seems a little skewed to me. Of the announced participants that are in this match, do you have a favorite? Or do you think that we're going to see someone random come up and win this thing?
It's probably going to be somebody random, I would have to guess. Being 50 people and only having the 25 announced, it's probably going to end up being just about anybody with a contract right now showing up, I would imagine. There's probably going to be some legends, as you mentioned, some random people, the tryout person, but there's no telling what they're going to do with this because it's not really going to build to anything. So it could just be anybody.
Well, I think, Daniel Bryan is a possibility, especially if they want the feel-good moment. I think Braun Strowman would make an excellent choice here. Of course, you could always have someone that you want to push later on win the match. I don't see a Sin Cara or a Great Khali winning this. But, stranger things have happened. But this is definitely one of the more interesting matches on the card, but I also think it's one of the least influential. It's almost just kind of there. I want to focus more on the two title matches here, the top titles of the company. The WWE Championship match, Shinsuke Nakamura will be challenging AJ Styles. That's a rematch from WrestleMania in New Orleans. Also for the Universal title in a steel cage. Brock Lesnar defends his title against Roman Reigns. That also is a return match from New Orleans. So here we are, 3 weeks after WrestleMania, and both title matches are rematches here at the Greatest Royal Rumble. A lot of people expect Roman Reigns to claim that Universal title tomorrow in Saudi Arabia. We'll start with that match. Ryan, I know you had some thoughts on the main event in New Orleans. You weren't a big fan of the match, and I know that you're not a huge fan of Roman Reigns in general. You've had a couple of weeks now to digest the events that took place in New Orleans. You know this match has been building. You know what's riding on it. Do you think we see a Universal title change tomorrow? And if not, where does that leave Roman Reigns?
I don't. I think Lesnar's going to keep it. The only reason I say that is because everybody expects Roman Reigns to win it, and I could just see them saying, well, let's just throw him another curveball like they did at WrestleMania. As for Roman Reigns after that, they're going to keep trying to push him, but the fans don't care anymore as it is. They're much less after this. So either way, I mean, either one could win, but I could see them trying to surprise people and having Lesnar walk out.
Well, I got to be completely honest here. I've kind of given up the hope on Roman Reigns personally. I've gone on record. I love the performer, but I hate the character. And when I say I hate the character, I hate what WWE has done with the character. It's not that Roman Reigns is necessarily a bad character. He's just been handled badly, especially for someone in his role. Someone on Reddit actually put together a tremendous comparison between Roman Reigns and John Cena. And John Cena, over the course of his first 4 years as a main eventer, is so far outpacing Roman Reigns in his first 4 years, it's not even funny. Roman Reigns has this aura of being the invincible Superman, but Roman Reigns hasn't had but one winning year since his main event push began. He spent 3 of the last 4 years losing more matches than he wins on pay-per-view. So, I mean, you have the perception of Roman Reigns and there's the reality of Roman Reigns, and they combine, and it just creates this perfect storm of, bad writing, bad direction, poor leadership. And unfortunately, in Roman's case, a string of bad performances at WrestleMania. It's really leaving a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And of course, whenever you talk about Roman Reigns, you have the, very polarized reactions. I can't stand talking to Roman Reigns hardcore fans, apologists that will defend him no matter what. They'll defend everything, and any criticism is blind hatred. And by that same token, I can't stand the blind haters that give him no credit whatsoever. If you're not a Roman Reigns fan, you're not a Roman Reigns fan. It's a qualitative argument, subjective, whatever people think, that's what they think. But, you got to give credit where credit's due. Roman, outside of WrestleMania, has been one of their top main event performers. So, it's just a matter of figuring out here, how can we salvage this guy? He's getting a split reaction at best right now. Is there a way forward with him winning the title? Does he need to turn heel? Can he even be salvaged at this point? There's so many questions surrounding Roman Reigns, and the debate is so fierce online. Honestly, I think that there's probably a strong likelihood Roman does win the title tomorrow. If he doesn't, though, Ryan, I cannot see him surviving as a main event babyface in this roster. I just don't see how it's possible.
I don't think it is possible, but they're going to see it as we're making the biggest underdog, and he's going to come all the way back from SummerSlam and try to win it there. I could just care less at this point, no matter which way they go with it. I'm just sick of it by now.
Well, that's the problem, though, because Roman Reigns is not an underdog. I mean, no, let me correct myself. If you go by his statistics in big matches, yeah, he is an underdog, but Roman Reigns as a character is not best suited to play that underdog role. Daniel Bryan is your classic underdog. Johnny Gargano is your underdog. Roman Reigns is not your underdog character. He just doesn't fit that billing.
Nope.
It's trying to shoehorn him in somewhere that he doesn't really belong, I think, and that's part of the problem. But honestly, there's just so much going on right now in WWE that Roman Reigns is almost becoming lost in the shuffle. You had some very exciting debuts over the last couple of weeks. Drew McIntyre making a lot of waves early on here. The first 2 weeks on the main roster, he has looked particularly good. Him and Dolph Ziggler forming that new tag team, The Show. Of course, Monday night, one of the loudest reactions I've heard in a good long while. Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley just having tremendous fun in the tag ranks, beating Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Braun getting really popular. You've got Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, of course, two very popular baby faces. You got some new talent in the women's division that are trying to make headways. Of course, Ronda Rousey is continuing to get great reactions. There's a lot going on right now on Raw, and this feud with Brock Lesnar, qualitatively, a lot of people aren't very happy with it. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go tomorrow. If Brock retains, we're really in uncharted territory. I don't know what they do at that point. My gut would say that Roman's walking out with the title, but after the last couple of weeks of bad predictions from yours truly, I'm not even going to harbor a guess or say for sure that Roman is winning the title. There are no certainties in WWE anymore. There's even more uncertainty surrounding the WWE Championship match, although this is for a much better reason. Shinsuke Nakamura completely relishing his heel turn here by punching AJ Styles in the dick every chance he gets. He will be challenging AJ Styles for the WWE Championship. Ryan, do you have a favorite in this match? Where do you think this one's going?
Best guess for me is Nakamura's on fire right now as a heel. They want to keep going with it. He needs to get that belt here, I believe. I don't see it going the other way. I think AJ Styles will get the belt back eventually. He deserves it. He's good with it. But Nakamura, I think it's his chance. He needs this right now.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. AJ Styles is almost the definition of a good placeholder champion, and that is absolutely no disrespect to AJ Styles. He's popular. He moves merchandise. He's a big face for the company, a big draw, one of the most popular guys they have. AJ holding the title is perfectly fine. There is absolutely nothing wrong with it. He's had a good title run. AJ is a good WWE champion. I think what Shinsuke Nakamura brings to the table right now, though, is kind of this sense of urgency almost. There's this groundswell of support behind him. This heel run has been very well received. And I think there is an impression you got to strike while the iron's hot. There's no guarantee that this heel turn, the momentum will be sustained long term. This thing could peter out in a couple of weeks or months. You never know with these things. It all depends on how WWE handles it, how creative, handles it moving forward. So we'll have to see whether they pull the trigger on a title switch here. I am of the mind to believe that if Nakamura does not win the title tomorrow, that AJ Styles will probably retain through SummerSlam. Just get the sense that once Nakamura loses, that Nakamura will probably drop down the card. And I don't want that. I kind of like this feud. I like the way it's going. I feel bad for AJ. He needs to invest in a cup. But I think that we could be getting another title change tomorrow. It would definitely add to the historical value of this show to have 2 title changes in addition to the 50-man Royal Rumble. And WWE is apparently going all out to make this show special, which again ties back into that theory. Maybe we're kind of pissing on WrestleMania's image here a little bit. Be that as it may, Nakamura and AJ, that should be a very good match. Hopefully it's a little bit better than the one they had in New Orleans. We'll just have to wait and see. This card is loaded with interesting matches, not the least of which the Intercontinental title will be defended in a fatal 4-way ladder match. Seth Rollins of Raw will also be joined by Finn Balor of Raw in this match. And 2 SmackDown superstars will also be involved, Samoa Joe and The Miz, rounding out this field. This is a very interesting match. The possibility exists for the Intercontinental title to switch brands here. Of course, Seth Rollins won the title in New Orleans. The Miz, former champion, trying to tie the all-time record with 9 title reigns. He's also closing in on the all-time longest cumulative time spent as champion. Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, both very good in their own roles. Of course, Samoa Joe really been lighting up. He's got a feud with Roman Reigns that's set to take off after the Greatest Royal Rumble. This might be one of the most difficult matches to call just because you have 4 dynamic personalities involved, and any one of them could really win this. You got a favor in this, Ryan, or is this more of a just enjoy the match for what it is and see what happens?
I think it's going to be a great match, probably one of the better matches of the show. I'm looking forward to it the most, looking at the card. There's a lot of ways I can go with this. I mean, any one of these people deserve to hold the title. If you want to get the belt back to SmackDown with The Miz, I would say almost let Joe win it instead of The Miz because it gives him something to do on SmackDown right now if they keep Nakamura as the main heel in the main event. I like the idea of Joe getting the belt and taking it to SmackDown. I just feel like the Intercontinental title should be on SmackDown at this point instead of Raw.
I definitely think we're getting a title change. I definitely do, and I say that because I don't see them keeping the Intercontinental title away from The Miz. This is probably going to be the last time The Miz has a chance to jump, or the last time the title will have a chance to come over until next year's Superstar Shakeup. I just don't see them leaving The Miz away from the Intercontinental title picture. It would just seem foolish to me to kind of deprive him of that record. He's so close to it, and I think the fans would respect him in that role. At least most of them would. So I definitely think that we're going to see the title jumping to SmackDown, and that would mean that either Samoa Joe or The Miz is walking out with the title. I like your idea. Samoa Joe with the Intercontinental title, I think that's a pretty good idea. It's a solid idea. And it does put Joe in a very nice position coming to Tuesday nights. The Miz, obviously, he's going to have a feud with Daniel Bryan coming up. Whether that involves the title or not, there's no way to tell. Daniel, of course, will be wrestling Big Cass, it would appear, at Backlash. So we'll just have to wait and see how this match plays out. The introduction of the ladder is kind of an interesting little stipulation. They definitely seem to be loading this card up. They really want to make it special. Speaking of special, The Undertaker will be wrestling Rusev. This match has been off and on over the last few weeks. This is a casket match. I don't think there's any way in the universe that The Undertaker loses this match. Would you agree, Ryan, that Undertaker's just going to take this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Rusev, and he deserves so much better. But yeah, I mean, not better than working with the Undertaker. Don't get me wrong. That's a great honor for any wrestler, I'm sure. But he should be in a title match.
Better relative to his position in SmackDown, basically. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so that's pretty much a foregone conclusion match. That's a pretty safe bet. Undertaker there picking up the win. Singles match for the Cruiserweight Championship. This one is apparently official now. Cedric Alexander, the Queen City's favorite son, will be defending his Cruiserweight title against Kalisto. This comes on the heels of Buddy Murphy not making weight and losing out on his championship opportunity. I don't see them putting the title on Kalisto here. Cedric Alexander, too much built up in him. I think Alexander retains. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's too early to take the belt off Cedric, and it just wouldn't make any sense. The match in general just seems weird. I don't know why they built that way, but yeah, I'm gonna go Alexander, honestly.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I don't really understand this match much either. I think this is just kind of a
show all over it.
Yeah, just kind of get everybody on the card type feeling here, I think. Other mid-card title, U.S. title, Jeff Hardy defending his championship against Jinder Mahal. This one, I think, will be dependent completely on the Intercontinental title ladder match. If that goes on before this match, it'll pretty much determine the outcome. If the Intercontinental title is moving to SmackDown, obviously the U.S. title will be going back to Raw, which means Jinder Mahal will be getting his title win back. Jeff Hardy as U.S. champion does nothing for me. Of course, Jinder Mahal as U.S. champion doesn't do much either, but at least you could build up Jinder as a mid-card heel for someone to beat. Of course, Jinder dropped a match to Chad Gable, of all people, this past Monday night, so maybe that could be a program moving forward. I'm going to go ahead and just suggest Jinder Mahal takes the U.S. title back here. I think the Intercontinental title is coming to SmackDown. So it would make sense here, I think, for Jeff Hardy to drop the title back to Jinder.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Unless they want to try and swerve us and end up having both titles on one show for a week or two before they do like a trade, it's most likely going to be Jinder with this one.
Yeah, I don't see any really, real shocking result there. If Jeff Hardy does retain, maybe it's the Intercontinental title staying on Raw. I just don't see it. I don't like the idea of keeping the Intercontinental title away from The Miz. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you're going to put the Intercontinental title on SmackDown, then you obviously have to have the U.S. title over on Raw. I think Jinder Mahal will probably take that one. We do have two tag team title matches. The end of the tag team eliminator, the leader of worlds, Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy, will be challenging former tag champions The Bar, Cesaro, and Sheamus. That's for the Raw Tag Team Championship. I am assuming that if the Bar wins the Raw Tag Team titles, they will be going back to Raw. If not, they'll remain on SmackDown where they were traded in the Superstar Shakeup. The leader of worlds, I'm indifferent to this match. Got to be completely honest. I love the Bar. I'm entertained by Matt Hardy. Bray Wyatt, he needed this babyface turn in the worst way. I am not liking this tag team much at all right now. It's just kind of there for me. It's one of the reasons I was so bearish on the Raw tag division. I would like to see the Bar remain on SmackDown. I think there's a lot of options for Cesaro once his singles run begins, which that feels like that's going to happen sooner rather than later. Maybe as early as tomorrow. You could see the Bar break up after losing their opportunity to reclaim the tag titles. You never know. I do think Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy become the tag team champions here, and I really just don't care much about it. Do you have any thoughts on this one?
And like I said earlier, unless they go with one of those, like, we're going to trade titles for titles, and the Bar end up taking the Raw tag titles to SmackDown, and they have to get traded for a mid-card title, it's going to be Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy. I mean, why would you put the Raw titles on SmackDown? Or why would you trade them to SmackDown and then move them right back to Raw? It doesn't make sense either way.
Yeah, there's no sense, which, of course, is, a forte of WWE doing things that don't make sense sometimes. So that's why everybody's kind of wondering, if they will, in fact, pull the switch again. I think that the Leader of Worlds will take this. I think Cesaro and Sheamus as a tag team, they could do more on SmackDown right now. They've pretty much run through everybody on Raw, and it's a good chance to get some fresh blood in with the show and possibly Strowman and Lashley forming a permanent tag team, at least I hope. And, of course, you have the Authors of Pain also on the Raw side. So there's a little bit of fresh landscape on Raw. The Bar could do more on SmackDown, and then Cesaro could be set up for a good run. There's a lot of opportunity on SmackDown right now, especially in that upper mid-card level. So I think that's probably the best place for the Bar. That would obviously mean the Raw tag titles are going to Wyatt and Hardy. We also have another tag title match. This one, the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. The Bludgeon Brothers will be defending their titles against former champions Jimmy and Jay, the Usos. This one has been kind of an interesting little angle that's been running on SmackDown the last few weeks. Again, kind of like the Leader of Worlds. The Bludgeon Brothers are just kind of there for me. I love Luke Harper. I could care less about Eric Rowan. The Usos, one of the best tag teams in wrestling right now, in my opinion. I don't see them getting the titles back here, though. I'm kind of shocked they didn't go and shake up. I would have figured for sure that the Usos would have been heading to Raw in order to kind of anchor down that tag division. But nope, they remain on SmackDown. So we'll just have to see what happens here. I think the Bludgeon Brothers retain. It's too early to take the titles off of them. Honestly, I believe we're going to be building up to a Bludgeon Brothers Sanity match. That seems like the way to go. Where that leaves the Usos, we'll just have to wait and see. But I definitely think the Bludgeon Brothers here retain. Who are you picking here, Ryan, and what you got and why?
I think you hit it pretty much directly on the head. It's probably just going to be the Bludgeon Brothers. It's too soon to take it off of them. And even though I don't think they need the titles, they work well enough without them as that monster tag team that everybody's afraid of. But they're probably just going to keep it on them for this one. Plus, if otherwise, I'm thinking every title is going to be changing hands, and I doubt they're going to go that far out with the show. So
the latest report that I saw was 3 to 4 titles changing hands. Now, the tag titles on Raw are going to have to be won because they're vacant right now, and they're not going to leave that title vacant any longer than they have to, I would imagine. So that would be one of the title changes. I agree with you. I think the Bludgeon Brothers, no reason to take the titles off of them right now. I also don't think Cedric Alexander has a real business losing his Cruiserweight title to Kalisto. So that leaves the 2 world-level titles and the U.S. title and the Intercontinental title, the big 4, as it were. Which of those titles switches hands? We'll just have to wait and see. I think, we're definitely getting at least one title change of the top 2, whether it's the WWE Championship or the Universal Championship. One of those titles will probably change hands. The mid-card titles could swap too. You never know. So we'll just have to wait and see on that one. And finally, rounding out this card, of course, we run down all the title matches. There's also another singles match. John Cena and Triple H will be wrestling for the first time in 8 years on this show. That's just a regular match. No real stakes involved there. It's just kind of a prestige match for the crowd in Saudi Arabia. No stakes involved here. Triple H and John Cena both appeared at WrestleMania 34 in losing efforts. Cena lost to The Undertaker. Triple H was on the losing side of the mixed tag match. I'm guessing this is probably just one of those, this is the last time these two will be in the ring together type deals. Any thoughts on this match? I'm just going to kind of throw it out in the wind here. I think John Cena will pick up the win, but could be wrong. Doesn't seem to matter much. Who you got here and why, Ryan?
Yeah, it's probably just one of those try to send the fans home happy kind of moments. Let's go with probably John Cena. Just try to pop the crowd a little bit. I mean, it's a match, I guess. They're both good workers. It should be fun, but it's no build to it, so it's not like I can't be excited about it. It's just there.
It's an interesting match, but it does feel like it's just kind of there. And this is probably going to be the last match for either guy for a while. John Cena, I think, is going to be filming some movies over the summer, so he probably won't be back for a little while. Triple H, of course, wrestles a very limited schedule these days, so we'll have to see if he's back for maybe the final Brooklyn SummerSlam show in August. But that is your card. 10 matches with the Greatest Royal Rumble and the Universal and WWE Championship matches headlining. We'll have to see how it shakes out. The start time tomorrow. The pre-show, 11 a.m. Eastern on the WWE Network. The main show starts at 12. Wildly varying show length time. Some people say 4 hours, some people say 5. There's been up to 7.5 hours. So, this is probably going to be an all afternoon type event here. But it should be fun. It's definitely unique. Not very often that you get a special event like this on a Friday, at least not from the main roster. So we'll just have to see how everything shakes out. Of course, once we get past the Greatest Royal Rumble tomorrow, we will be full bore for Backlash, which is a week from Sunday, May 6th, on the WWE Network. And then from Backlash, we are definitely going into the summer months then and kind of working our way on towards the Money in the Bank pay-per-view and SummerSlam. Of course, the Royal Rumble, the Greatest Royal Rumble event tomorrow, of course, as we mentioned at the outset of the show, very controversial. And Ryan, this is something we haven't talked a lot about on this show, but it's definitely been a topic out in the ether. Of course, being in Saudi Arabia with the culture in Saudi Arabia, the women's division will not be represented tomorrow. They will be left off the show. To my knowledge, they were left off the flight itself. They are not in Saudi Arabia with the rest of the crew. They are all stateside, if I'm not mistaken. And this rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, especially in light of WWE promoting themselves as a progressive company with the Women's Evolution, using the first ever Women's Rumble matches and the Elimination Chamber with the women to kind of promote their PR angle here. A lot of fans upset. Several podcasters have taken to trying and organizing a boycott of the show. The news did break this week that the WWE will be paying the women's division performers as if they had performed at the show, despite the fact that they won't be there. A lot of people were kind of curious as to why the WWE didn't try and organize some sort of show for the women to take place. Honestly, my take on all of this, the show itself came together so quickly. It feels like it's only been in the works for the last 8 weeks. So we're probably working up against logistical issues here with their scheduling. But, you look at everything that's going on here. Should WWE have ran this show? They're making a lot of money. Is it worth the price they're paying with this PR backlash against them?
There's two sides to every coin. It sucks that the women aren't going to be there to wrestle, and that's not WWE's fault. That's the country and the way it is. But you can look at it on the other side and say, well, there's a lot of fans of wrestling in Saudi Arabia. Why do they not deserve to be able to go and watch a show? Just because they might not all feel that the women shouldn't be there, but does that mean they shouldn't get a show anyways? It's kind of a two-headed beast. It sucks, and I agree with it, but not really much you can do about it. They're going to make a lot of money on it, and if they're still paying the women performers for it, that's probably about the best way they could have gone about doing it.
Well, I don't want to get into the semantic argument of cultural differences because that leads nowhere good, basically. That's just, barking up the wrong tree, so to speak.
Yeah.
I will say, you have two different views here. There is the PR view and there is the pragmatic view. Pragmatically, Vince had an offer for a lot of money. $100 to $200 million over the next 10 years. That is a huge chunk of change to run these shows. He has a responsibility as the CEO of a publicly traded company to provide the best return for his shareholders. That's his responsibility. WWE has a responsibility to their shareholders. And so you have an opportunity to make this much money, you really have to take it. From a pragmatic perspective, it's a brilliant business move until you take into account the public relations aspect. Now, the backlash to this has mostly resided inside the internet wrestling community. It hasn't really reached the level of penetration that the Fabulous Moolah backlash did when everyone started contacting sponsors. Obviously, this show was probably not being canceled, so I don't think there was anything to really accomplish on that front. There's definitely some fan angst here, though, and I understand it. I do. WWE touts itself with its public relations image. as this, really progressive company that has focused on really becoming a beacon of diversity over the last couple of years. And and before anyone jumps down me the third on that one, obviously the company is going to say that it's not going to use its PR department to make itself look bad. I'm not saying that. It's just you tout yourself as going above and beyond the call here to really give this women's evolution the proper spotlight, and now you're running a show where they can't perform. Uh, it rubs a lot of people the wrong way, and I think it has a right to rub them the wrong way. Ryan, do you agree?
It does, and it is a little hypocritical in the way they've been trying to build up the women's division here lately. But it comes down to the dollar. They're getting paid a lot for the show. The show is sold out. I mean, I've heard that there's some of the tickets were cheap, and there's probably going to have been some tickets that were given away. But it's their company. They're going to try and make the money, and the public backlash of it. There's going to be some, but honestly, I don't think there's going to be as much as people are thinking there'll be. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't really want to argue that statement. But this isn't the first show they've ran over there. People didn't complain the last couple times they've been over there and the women weren't there. So why is it different this time? It sucks for the women. It's not the company's fault the women can't be there. It's more of the country. But it is what it is. They're going ahead with it. There's nothing we can do about it. You can not watch it, but most people are going to watch it. So what does it matter?
That's one reason that we went ahead and covered the show here today on the podcast. I don't see the point of boycotting coverage of the show for the very reason you just mentioned. People are going to watch it. This show is going to happen whether they wanted to or not. And, some people are upset that it's taking place, and other people that don't care and are excited. And I don't know that any one side is right or wrong in this argument because there are so many issues involved. It's so nuanced. Obviously, there are issues in Saudi Arabia that need to be fixed. I am, without going too far down the rabbit hole here, I'm not typically one for moral relativism. I tend to believe that it's not okay just because it's different. And that's all I'll say on that front. But, WWE, they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place here. It's a lot of money to turn down. They're getting a lot of money to run these shows. And again, they do have a responsibility to make the most profit possible. So, I think WWE really all they can do at this point is just kind of close their eyes, kind of plow through it, hope that the show goes off without a hitch tomorrow. It is going to be interesting from a logistical standpoint to see how they work in these intermissions with the show length already being so long. We'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. But, for the women, it sucks they're not going to get a chance to be showcased on this card because this card seems like it's going to be a pretty big deal. I know that performers, wrestlers in general, they love to wrestle. And it sucks to be left off a card in general. It is good that they're being paid. Now, how much they're paid, I'm sure we'll figure that out next week at the earliest as the kind of news starts trickling out from the show. I think
I'll just hope that maybe one day they'll be able to be there, even if it's not today.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the hope. I think that the hope is that in the future, especially since this is a 10-year partnership, that before the end of this run in Saudi Arabia, the women will be allowed to compete. So we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. I think that it's going to be an interesting show. Hopefully it's a good show. It's going to be a long one, though. And quite frankly, with the length of these shows as a litmus test, I don't expect a great show tomorrow. I just don't. The longer the show, the less likely the show is going to be exceptional. I think that's just a good rule of thumb at this point. There's just too much bloat. You're just too tired, too burnt out. I don't expect the crowd in Saudi Arabia to be any different. I do believe the crowd in Saudi Arabia will, shall we say, conform to the script a little better. I think that Roman Reigns, John Cena, they'll get far better reactions in Saudi Arabia than they would here in the States. Although it would be quite funny in a very perverse sense if Roman got booed tomorrow. especially with the report that Vince may have punted on the title change at WrestleMania because the crowd in Saudi Arabia would be more amenable to his win. As always, we'll see what happens there. But that is the show tomorrow afternoon, starting at 12 on the WWE Network. The Greatest Royal Rumble. And I think what helps WWE, of course, we have another pay-per-view coming up next week, a week from this coming Sunday. It is Backlash. And I think once we get through Backlash, we'll really start to see the effects of the Superstar shakeup kind of play this way out. Next week is going to be a big show. Of course, we'll be looking at the NXT's expansion plans. We'll have a full rundown of the card for Backlash. It should be finalized by this time next week. We'll also have thoughts on the Greatest Royal Rumble as they come in. I'll also be talking a little bit about that on Saturday night. Be sure to check out our show Saturday evening. It's the Queen City Express Last Call. We have the drawing for the WrestleMania Trivia Contest Challenge. Again, email address is provided in the info tab below. If you want to enter, all you have to do is get your submissions in. On those questions, one question answered correctly gets you in. The drawing will take place live on the air Saturday night. So as long as your drawing is, or as long as your submission is accepted before midnight Saturday, you have a chance to win. So good luck to everyone that's entered into that already. Still trying to get up to 15 participants total. I think the last check we had 13. So looking forward to some great things with that. We will be back next week, same time, same channel. Ryan, thanks for joining us, buddy. Any last thoughts tonight on the NFL draft? You got anybody in mind going number one?
Oh, there's so many possibilities. It's the Browns, so it could be a kicker. I'm going to say Baker. Probably Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield, number one overall.
Yeah, that's a guess. There's a lot of buzz that it might be different. I'm more interested in the fact that apparently on day 3, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to have a parrot announcing their pick. So that's a thing.
Wait. The Tampa Bay Bucks are having a parrot announce their pick.
Yeah, because I guess when your franchise has gotten so bad, they can't have anybody to go out there and do it themselves.
Where did you hear this news? That doesn't sound legit.
It was a headline I read a few days ago. It's got to be real, right?
Are you sure it wasn't from the Onion or something?
I hope it wasn't because I really want to see this.
All right. Okay, so the parrot announcing the Tampa Bay, for fuck's sake. Okay.
You weren't expecting this, were you?
No, I wasn't. I don't really know how to close the show after that. A parrot.
I mean, how do you top a parrot?
Are we trying? Well, anything would top a parrot. We're kind of scraping the bottom of the freaking barrel.
Clearly not, because you don't know where to go now.
It's not a matter of topping it. It's an embarrassment to the league, and Tampa Bay should be raised from the face of the earth. That stupid boat sinking out in the harbor or something. I hate the Bucks almost as much as I hate the Falcons and the Saints.
Well, okay, I'm sorry I derailed this. I'll try to bring it back. Who do you think's going to be going number one?
I don't know. I'm still focused on the damn parrot.
Maybe the parrot's going number one. That would be the best Cleveland thing they could do.
You know, there are Cleveland Browns fans at Cage Side Seats, believe it or not, even those are brave enough to admit their fandom publicly. I wouldn't want to torture them like that.
Yeah.
You know, statistically, at some point, Cleveland has to luck into a winning season.
I'll be 100% honest. As much as I like to joke about the Browns and how bad they've been lately, between this draft and the people they've brought in free agency, if they could get rid of their coach, who for some reason has won 1 game out of 2 seasons and kept his job, I think they could be a scary team. But we'll just have to wait and see what they do.
Maybe they're waiting for. They're in a good spot. Maybe they're waiting for Marvin Lewis to be fired in Cincinnati.
That'll never happen.
All right, well, I'm going to put you on the spot because I think it's pretty obvious at this point we're both Carolina Panthers fans, so we're just going to dive headfirst into this. I want one name. Who do you want to see called tonight for the Panthers?
Oh, it's hard for me to say because I haven't been following this draft as much as I usually have, just because I haven't heard as much. usually by this point, I've heard a lot of names that are most likely going to be who the Panthers take. And so far this year, there's really only been one, and that's Calvin Ridley. And I'm not opposed to Calvin Ridley. I think he'd be a good addition to the team. I want a safety, but there's supposed to be good ones in the second and third round, so we'll just wait and see how it plays out.
I'm looking at Calvin Ridley. That's who I would like to snag. If we can get Calvin Ridley out of Alabama, that would be a big pickup. But we'll see how it goes. Of course, the first round of the NFL draft starts tonight.
If you make it.
If I'm oh Lord, after the week I've had, there's no telling. NFL draft starts tonight. We'll run over the next couple of days. Of course, got plenty of NBA and NHL playoff action this weekend. Baseball season kind of hit a little bit of snag last few days, but a big win for your favorite team, the Boston Red Sox. They definitely pulled it out yesterday. Mookie Betts continuing to make some Mookie magic for us. So good to see the Red Sox get off the snide there. A great sporting weekend coming up. But, of course, tomorrow, the big show in Saudi Arabia. Next week, the pay-per-view for Backlash. Going to be a great week, folks. Hope you enjoyed this show. We look forward to seeing you next week here. Same time, same place here on the Queen City Express. That's it for Ryan and me today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. We'll see you back Saturday night for the last call. Take care, guys.
Parrot.
No, we're not talking about the damn parrot. You see, I've already made the sign off. You're not supposed to talk anymore. Now the recording is still going, and we're just here shooting the shit because you brought up the damn parrot.
I mean, you could have ended it with parrot, and it would have been fun.
I'm not ending my show on parrot. Well, and yeah, you lose the right to co-host status by bringing up the damn parrot.
Hey, if the parrot happens, be amazed.
You can't see it, but I'm face palming so hard right now.
Well, that's the Tampa Bay for you.
I'll be debuting a new co-host next week, guys. He's Ryan Sile. I'm Biff Kensington. We're out, you filthy animals. Go enjoy the rest of your day.
Filthy parrots.
Shut up!